Hi everyone and welcome back to Just with Dara. This is the seventh episode of season two, and I'm really excited for today's episode because I feel like it's going to be a really good topic. And I have one of my closest friends here today to join me as my guest. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Hadassah Cox. Yeah, like Darcy said, I'm really close friends with her, and I'm really excited for the episode. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
yeah, thank you for coming on. Yeah, I am excited. So as you guys can tell by the title, today's episode is just really focused around Hadassah being that she is biracial, and it's just going to I feel like through this episode she's kind of just gonna tell like her story of how she's like grown up so far, and yeah. Okay, so per usual I have a few prompts, and I guess we'll just go through and like she'll just answer them and like kind of like and we'll just like have a conversation that way. So yeah, okay, let's get started. So the first prompt is was there ever a point in time, perhaps when you were younger, that you didn't know that you were biracial?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really know like when I was younger. I guess because my parents didn't really think it was like not that they didn't think that it wasn't important, but I guess that it wasn't just like a huge part of like my identity like when I was really young. I mean, I do remember like at some point they would start to like, like hey, my mom would be like, yeah, I'm black, your dad's white, that type of thing. But like it wasn't a super big point like in my life until I got older.
Okay, so like what age? I don't know if this is like a weird question, but like what age would you say that you kind of like realized like, oh yeah, okay, I am, and like when it actually kind of like when you actually like thought about it?
Probably like 8 or
Oh,
9, something like that. Yeah.
okay, so moving on, the next prompt is: do you feel as if you connect more with one side of your family, or do you believe it to be equal?
Um, I mean, I feel like I connect a little bit more with my mom's side of the family, but that's not necessarily due to race. I mean, that's just because of location and like, that type of thing. It wouldn't be because of racial things. And yeah, they live really far, so it's that type of thing. But no, I mean, I feel like all of my family I'm pretty close with. Yeah.
Okay, that's good then. Do you think that like okay, well, maybe like other biracial people that you've met or anything like that, do you feel like you've ever heard other people say like that they're closer to one side because of race or anything like that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like especially if some of your family is like racist or not as accepting of, your other half, I feel like yeah, definitely you'd probably be more close with the side of your family that you're more comfortable with and is more accepting of you. So yeah, no, I've definitely heard of that.
Okay. So the next prompt is: do you ever feel out of place amongst white people or African American slash Black people?
Sometimes. I mean, I don't think it's how people would probably imagine. I mean, all people kind of make me anxious, but I guess it just depends on the like location and just like where I'm at and who I'm with. And like that's not necessarily social status, but like kind of like the type of people that they are, like who I'm more comfortable with. But I don't think that's necessarily to do with race.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, the next prompt is: in what ways do you think your parents have helped you to have a sense of belonging?
I think that they did really well about like teaching me about both of like where I've come from and like teaching me about my like black family, my black history and like who I am as a person. And I think it was very helpful for them to like teach me about that, but not necessarily like make it this like thing where it made me feel kind of out of place or made me feel super different from other people. But it was just like, hey, like this is normal. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people are biracial. Like it's not like you're not this like weird different person that's like no one's gonna be able to like understand you and kind of understand where you're coming from. So yeah, I think they did a really good job with that.
That's good that they did that because I feel like I've heard maybe like some other stories and like people feel like maybe their parents didn't like educate them that
Yeah.
well on it.
No,
Or something. Yeah.
yeah.
So like they kind of like maybe didn't feel like they always belonged in one area or something. Whereas I guess for you, like that is good that you feel like they did a good job with that to where you don't have to feel out of place
Yeah.
amongst certain people or other people and this and that. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and like I said, I've definitely seen that, like, especially with some people, like, especially I guess, honestly, it depends on, like, which parent is white and which one's black, or, like, for all races, genuinely. But, like, for me, I've have some friends and heard of some people whose, like, parent who is white doesn't necessarily, like, teach their kid about their black history or, like, make that even, like, noticeable to them, so they grow up not even understanding or knowing anything about that type of identity or like anything about themselves in that respect.
Yeah, and that would be pretty unfortunate because I feel like they should be able to embrace both sides and
Yeah.
not have to kind of be like, I don't know if shielded away is the right word,
Mhm.
but like shielded away from that side or
Yeah.
from knowing about that history or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so moving on. Have you ever wished that you were one race because it made be quote easier?
No, I don't think I have. I think I've always been pretty okay with, being biracial. I mean, there's always points in times where it was like, um, this is like different, but I wouldn't say necessarily like hard or like I'd wish to be one race or the other. So no.
Okay, that's actually really good because I was watching this spectrum video from
Uh-huh. Oh my
G.
god, I love those.
Okay, yeah. So so it was like a episode for that for biracial people or mixed people. I
Mhm.
think yeah, mixed people, and they were talking about how like sometimes they felt as if like if they were just like one race and didn't have the other side that it would be easier for them. And I was like, okay, wait, that's actually kind of like sad that they feel like sometimes maybe people like look at them differently or something, or I don't know if like I guess judge them maybe for
Mhm.
having two parts or three parts or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
not just like being one race. And I think that I'm really glad that you feel like you don't think that you ever had to feel like, oh, this is like super hard or like you rather
Yeah.
be like one race. So that's really good that you never really felt like, oh,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be like this. So
I think the only times that it would probably be kind of like a point where I was like, I not bullied per se, but just more like, yeah, I don't think bully is the right term, but kind of like picked on or like
tease.
people said something, but yeah, teased would probably be like when I started like middle school, and it was like what are you? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what are you talking? I didn't really like know what to say. I was like, I don't know. And so I think when some people would be like, yeah, well, like you're not black. What are you talking about? Or like, certain like social things like dancing, just like cultural things. They'd be like, you can't like I can't dance. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of people would be like, you have no rhythm, like you're not that type of thing. And I feel like
Yeah.
some of that also comes back to like stereotypes and just kind of like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so yeah, but other than that, yeah.
That I think that also was like brought up in that episode that I was talking about as well. Just like little things like that, like the people will say things that they expect you to maybe know how to do
Mhm.
or something like that, and because they're like stereotypes, and then they'll like judge you maybe if you don't know how to do it or if you don't know what it is and things like that, and or things of that nature. And when
Yeah.
it comes like when you really think about it, it is unfortunate because it's like you can't just like label a whole like race of like knowing how to do a certain thing or something like that. And it's just kind of like, especially if you're like picking on other people or like teasing them for it, it's just like even more like, oh, like why are you doing that? But
Yeah, no, I agree. Totally.
yeah, so the next prompt is where do you feel most accepted for who you are?
I don't think that I assimilate more with like one culture over the other or one race over the other. Probably just like with friends and family and people that I know that um and I don't like when people say, when people are like, yeah, I don't see race. Like I hate people who say that because like no, like that's a big part of someone and like who they are, and I feel like that's an important thing. Like you shouldn't say you don't see race. But for people who see that and like understand it, but it doesn't change anything or their perception on you as a person. So people, I guess like to answer that question, I feel more accepted with people who understand that and see that, but also like don't really have an opinion otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I actually realize I don't really like when people say that either. Like, I don't see race. Because when you say, like, I think when you say that, it kind of like, I don't really know how to phrase it, but it's just like how you said, when you should like see race, but also accept everyone for who they are and their differences. And that's the important part, not just saying that, oh, I don't see race or anything like that, because
Yeah.
that sounds nice, but I feel like
Hmm.
behind that, it's just kind of like you trying to like maybe like convince someone like, oh yeah, like um I'm not racist or something. I don't know, but it is
Yeah,
better.
I feel like it's like makes people feel like more comfortable, and it's easier for someone to be like,
Yeah,
no, like I don't see your race, like no, like that's not a like it just makes people feel easier, especially people like white people or people who like aren't of color necessarily. It's like, oh no, like I can just say it like, girl, like I don't see right, that type of thing. And it's like, oh, okay, well that's like kind of like an actually big part of someone.
right.
Yeah.
So like you said, it is better to say that like I see, but I'm still accepting you for who you are and not
Right.
treat you any differently or judge you based off of who you are or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next one is: do you ever feel that you have special privileges as as a biracial person who's half white?
Yeah, I think I do, definitely. Especially because I mean, I always say like I don't really feel like I look black, but like people say that I do. Um, I don't know. I guess some of my characteristics and look, I guess I do, but my skin tone is really light or really fair. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Someone looking at me wouldn't necessarily tell, like my skin is, it's not really dark, it's more fair. So I think for sure I have that privilege because people don't look at me and immediately assume like, oh, like that's a black mixed person, that type of thing.
Mhm.
So I definitely feel like I have a privilege in that respect. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I know you mentioned this a bit earlier, but has anyone blatantly judged you or even bullied you for being biracial?
Yeah, no, like I said, like no one's actually like just came up to me and just was like, you horrible person, like that type of thing. Oh my gosh, I don't like you because you're black and you're also white. So no, like no one's ever blatantly judged me, but I think some things are kind of like not necessarily subconscious, but like just kind of quietly kind of said, or just like things that people like comments and types of things like that. Like it's not blatant, but it's kind of like, hey, oh, like you're, like I said, like, oh, you're not black, or like you don't look like, that type of thing. So they're not necessarily blatant, but kind of just quiet, like subtle statements.
Yeah, okay, I get that, like you were saying before. So then on to our last prompt, actually, which is: what do you have to say to people who may look down on biracial people or discredit their struggles?
I would probably just say like people too. I think a lot of people look at biracial people and like, oh, especially like for the black community, looking at biracial people who are white and black, and it's like you think you're all that, or you think you're better than me because you're fair skinned, or because you're like half white. I think a lot of people, black people especially, kind of especially my past, were kind of like, oh, you think you're better in this, or you think you're different or special in that way. So I feel like that kind of hurts, and it I don't know, I feel like it's kind of something that I haven't really like thought about in a long time actually. But yeah, I would just say with people too. And I think um overall life isn't that much different being a biracial person than if I were just one race.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's definitely a good like message to pass on. And I think it's really important that people do realize that just because someone may be different from you in that situation, you're really not all that different anyways.
Yeah.
That people are still people. And that's just really important to remember. So yeah, and again, I really appreciate you coming on this episode with me. I had a lot of fun recording this with you.
Me too.
And I hope that all of you guys, to my listeners, enjoyed this episode. And see you guys next week for episode 8. Bye.